Hey, I'm Eric Williams, and I'm directing God of War Ragnarok.
Hi, Eric Williams. Hi, I'm Cory Barlog, and I have heard of God of War Ragnarok.
What was your reaction to all the positivity that surrounds God of War Ragnarok?
I mean, it was amazing. I I
Hmm.
didn't really know how to deal with it, to be honest. I didn't even watch the event till later on that night because I was so worried. I was like, oh, what if they didn't like it? So I just kind of ran away during the day and waited till later to see it. I got the most text messages I've ever gotten on my phone before. People super hyped, and it was awesome. And you seeing your guys' reaction videos, and then the stuff that came afterwards and all that. It's amazing. But I was really excited for the team. The team
Hmm.
has put so much into this, through the last few years, and following up the last game is no easy task. And so getting watching all their little things like, that was my little thing I did in the trailer, or this, or all that kind of stuff was super awesome. And I'm just super happy for them, and everybody. This is their first, some people's first trailer that they ever got to put out. So getting that kind of reception is absolutely amazing. So yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was really great. I mean, we haven't seen each other in person for like a year and a half, like probably closer to 2 years at this point. So there's a bunch of people even on the team that I've never met, that probably have never met other people at the studio. So I was very much living vicariously through the internet and watching their responses, posting pictures and videos of their sort of enthusiasm, and then going down that rabbit hole of everybody talking about the trailer and being excited. So yeah, I was pretty much on my computer for the entire day, just nerding out. It was wonderful because it did make me feel a sense of connection that it's just really hard, I think, in this time to have that kind of connection. So it was amplified by the fact that that connection went out to the fans who are also super excited about this stuff. So great.
Oh yes, super excited is an understatement. Like everybody is just really positive about this game. At least that's what I saw. But I first wanted to start with this question. As you guys know, I love Kratos as a character, even before God of War 2018. Uh, but before God of War 2018 came out, he was very vicious. He hurt a lot of people, but people always seem to root for Kratos. Why do you guys think people always see Kratos as this hero character? Everybody wants him to succeed.
That's super interesting. You know what? I'll jump in one, and then you can take it away, Eric, because I probably don't have that much to offer on it. But I would say the interesting thing, the thing we found when we were playtesting the early games was that Kratos spoke to that part of so many different gamers that have just kind of had that stamped down frustration, right? That they had they got yelled at by their teacher, or they got pulled over, got in an argument with their parents, or their friend, or their boyfriend or girlfriend, and it wasn't that they wanted to go out and cut up a bunch of minotaurs in real life, but they just have that inherent fire that had some place it needed to go, and it was kind of a release. And
Hmm.
Kratos was that feeling embodied in somebody also going on this epic journey of self-realization. Um, and we definitely leaned hard into the concept of the anti-hero. That was Jaffe's
Yeah.
original vision, and this concept of Clash of the Titans meets Heavy Metal Magazine, and loved it. I think that we wouldn't be where we are now had we not begun in that place, right? We needed a
Hmm.
place to grow from. And that wasn't the intent when it started, but that's what's so interesting and fertile about the storytelling and the world that we have, is that we can show this progression and show that even in human beings, like every once in a while, we experience that sense of frustration and release and then growth. Right. And I think we are in that phase of growth. And we all know that you get to that phase of growth, you still fall back, you still get frustrated, you still get angry, but you figure out as you go through life, as the time passes, how to properly manage and deal with all that stuff.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I think that's great. I never really actually thought about that, tapping into people's anger and then trying to show that in a video game. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Eric, what about you?
Yeah. Coming up with a character all those years ago, and like watching that kind of like growth. We also still seeded it with the kind of stuff like he knew he was kind of doing the wrong thing and he needed to do the right thing. In the first game when you get to the final boss fight with Ares and you get pulled into the dream, the whole setup is about saving your family from yourself. Like all the characters he fights are demons of himself, and he has to hug his family, give up his own life to try to save them, to try to fix the wrongs. Like, you know, and I think that's really the important lesson, like through the character and how he's growing, is it's something that we as, you know, people should do a lot more of, and we kind of fail. But it's like when you do make a mistake, it's what you do next that counts the most. You know, if you try to repair it or fix it, that's really the thing you need to do. But a lot of us we're too scared or embarrassed to admit that we were wrong or we did something. And he was in that mind state for a long time. And then, you know, as he starts to move into the Norse realms and with Faye and Atreus, he starts to see he does need to be better, right? And he teaches the kid these lessons because he doesn't want the kid to end up like him. You know what I mean? And so, like, and we also, at the end of the day, like, we like comeback stories as people. We like watching people fall and get back up again. Sometimes the things are a little too harsh to come back from, but him being a fictitious character, I think he gets a little bit of better goodwill towards that. But I think that's really deep down inside of us that we like that. But, you know, that's where I've always seen him. He's not been this one note thing. It's like we had seeds of it, but he was in a different place in his life, just like anyone is. You know, so when you're young, you do a lot of stupid things, and then you kind of regret them, and you try to repair that and be better as you go forward. And if you end up having kids, or you try to teach that to them to not make those mistakes, they still make them because they're kids. You know, so it's just these cycles that they go through. So, you know, he's just on a different part of his journey right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love that answer. I'm not gonna lie, you know, and him trying to teach Atreus to not be who he was. I think that's like the best part of Kratos as a character. But what has been your favorite games in the Greek era? Like, there's been a ton of them. I know you guys obviously worked on almost every single one of them. So which ones are your favorites?
You want to go first?
You first, man. I'm going to cheat off your test. So
okay. For me personally, my favorite story is the Ghost of Sparta story. You know, it I think tells
well written. Whoever wrote that
I
one.
know. I don't know who wrote that one. That guy is really good at his job. But I like it. It's a very simple story, you know, because it tells a lot of things about Kratos' past, you know, like where he's from. Like you get to see that city. You get to see Sparta for the first time. You get to meet his mom. He's looking for his brother. And you start to get this sense, like you even see them as kids, like him teaching those lessons, like, you know, like his brother, like get off your back, like Spartan's never on his back. So even then, you know that Kratos is capable of helping others, you know, so you get these little seeds of what he could be the way he is with Atreus if he just opens himself up to it. And then his brother ends up, you know, taking his place. And then he has all that feeling when he finally finds him, and then they you know, reunite and they do the thing together. And it's very telling of like almost me and Cory's relationship. You know, there were times where we didn't get to work together on things, or we were mad at each other or whatever. And then, but when you needed to, you come back together to form this good bond and you do something amazing. And so, like, for me, that one, it's always been very special. And, you know, I probably because I have a personal connection to it.
I think God of War Ghost of Sparta is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's really sad how when he got Deimos and Deimos just died as quickly as Kratos found him. You know, that scene is very heartbreaking in the community. Cory, what about you? What's your favorite game?
Well, first, let me say, God of War Ghost of Sparta. The sort of story behind that, the genesis of where all of that came from, was discussions between Eric and I. And there's so much imagery inside of there, that just beautiful scene at the end with the gravedigger with Kratos and Deimos' body. That's all Eric, man. That was Eric, like, hey, what if we did this? We should try this. Like, he is one of the best sort of sounding boards in the ability to kind of like come up with these just concentrated moments that integrate both play and the emotional experience. It was just awesome and amazing. That was a really fun thing to work on. For the only one that I worked on where I was just writing it, and it's so freeing and so amazing to just have that responsibility and not feel like everything else is barreling down on you. I can't really pick 2018. It's weird if you pick your own thing. You know, and to be quite honest, I really feel like it's the first game. You know, the first game has that kind of like shadow that has been cast over me that I feel at all times. You know, it's sort of personified in the phrase that I think tons of different journalists asked me when we first started going out for God of War 2 promotional stuff, and they were all like, that whole reveal where Kratos is wearing the ashes of his dead wife and child. Wow, man, how you gonna top that? And I never had an answer to that because it's super hard to top. It's brilliant. It was an absolutely phenomenal realization, and the idea of telling it in flashback, all the kind of just huge swings that we took during that. I feel like we had so many discussions throughout the development of that game where we were like, what if we tried this? And it was usually really crazy stuff, the whole hugging the wife and child in that final battle with Ares was Eric saying, what if we tried this? What if we did this? Could that make sense? And then it was like, what if, yes, the clones and they're coming in. That's really interesting. And I feel like we were so motivated and so pushing ourselves to go as far as we possibly could. Because for Eric and I, this was like the first game that we'd ever worked on.
Yeah.
That we legitimately thought, hey, people might actually like this.
Yeah.
And that's like no dig to Backyard Wrestling 1 and 2 and Rock'em Sock'em Robots and X-Men: The Next Dimension and Mutant Academy and all that. But we have no illusions that we were making those games to kind of keep the doors open for development. These were games that were done in 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. They were just hard, difficult paths to get to the end, and a lot of sacrifice of, well, it's got to get done at this date, so you just ditch a lot of stuff. This was the first time that we had somebody in charge that was fighting for, no, we need more time, we need more people, we need to get this done, we need to try this. So every cool thing we could imagine, there was a very real possibility we could realize that. And honestly, that's just so incredibly special to me, that entire experience, and that what it ended up being and what it kind of started, right? Because otherwise I'd just sort of be this complainy bastard who isn't doing anything because, I'm making games that I wasn't happy with. This truly gave me an actual career.
Yeah. The legacy of these games I think are absolutely incredible. And Eric is right there alongside you guys as well. And it's really cool to see him take all those ideas of the past and actually bring them over to God of War Ragnarok, which I think is amazing. Speaking of God of War Ragnarok, I would like to ask some things about it. Some things that we all have been talking about because of the trailer. And the first thing I want to talk about is the Guardian Shield. There are moments in the trailer where it has a different design and Kratos is doing different moves with it that we didn't see in the previous game. So will the Guardian Shield be more customizable, and in what ways?
Well, first off, good eye that you noticed that. We were trying to keep that a little like under the radar, but can't sneak anything past you guys. It's I don't want to go too deep on it, but yes, there are different shields and they have different defensive options and abilities. And the reason why we're doing this is we really want to open up the expressive choice to the way that you build your Kratos, like the equipment and loadout and things like that. So all the way down to the defense, you can kind of play a little differently, and then enemies know how to respond to that or force you into these different situations where you need to use different things. So I think it'll be fun for players to explore that, but also just kind of like we want it to be more expressive, where your choices matter when you set them up.
I think that's great. Because we've seen so much new stuff in terms of combat in this game, new basic attacks, rune attacks. Atreus is riding a stag that he summoned and ramming into enemies. He looks like he's having the time of his life. So I think that new moves of the Guardian Shield is great. Another question that a lot of people in the community have was how is Freya's impact going to last throughout this game? She seems pretty upset in God of War Ragnarok, and we just want to know, like, what is she going to, like, how is she going to impact the story and all of that?
I don't want to say too much,
Yeah, of course,
I don't want to spoil things for anyone, but the big thing is like to remember what she said at the end of the last game, right? I mean, she put her stake in the ground. She said, "I'll rain down every agony, right? Like every violation imaginable." Like she's got some problems with Kratos, so that's going to have to get aired out, so we'll just have to wait and see how that comes.
And the community, they're like pretty split because everybody loves Freya as a character, right? Everybody loves like what she did with Kratos, how nice she was, how much she helped us. So to see this character in this state where it's like her only goal is to destroy us, I don't know. I just can't wait to see where her arc ends up.
It's such an exciting part of storytelling to be able to develop a character, elicit that kind of response from the community, but also be able to put in that consequence of choice. And Kratos' choice was hard, and it was hard because the consequence is hard to deal with. And I think it is so exciting to be able to have that, so that it doesn't feel like we didn't wrap it up in the last game with a pretty little bow. We left it with, wow, okay, that decision was difficult. Kratos felt he needed to do it. And,
Mhm.
you know, in my mind, I feel like there has to be a small scintilla of a place in Freya that understands that, but to be able to find that place through all that cloud of rage is hard, man. It's hard,
Mhm.
and it's going to be really interesting from a sort of world and storytelling point to see what happens.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. I think that it's really sad. Again, like you said, like it's really hard, like what she went through. But it is very similar to Kratos' origin story as well. You know, with the pain and loss, and having all this translate to Freya is, I think, one of the most exciting moments about the next game. One of the most other important characters who I absolutely love is Atreus, or a lot of people in the community now is just calling him Loki. What can you guys tell us about Loki's eventual growth in this world as he's trying to figure out who he wants to be as a person?
Well, we're not going to tell you anything today.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Okay. Damn.
Great interview.
That was a good one. You almost got me. But I will say this: you know, the split between Atreus and Loki, that's like a real thing. That's
Yeah.
something that I think we all go through, like who we're going to be as we start to grow up at that age. And he's got double duty to deal with, because he's got he's his father's son, his
Yeah.
mother's son, and he can't ask questions to his mother, unfortunately, and his father can't answer those questions, and that becomes a very difficult thing. If you as a parent, you want to do nothing but explain things to your kids and help them and teach them and grow. And when you don't have the answers, you feel helpless. And these are problems that Kratos can't beat up. He can't beat up answers and questions. Like they're just like he has to wrestle with them and try to figure out a way to do this. And that's difficult for him, and it actually makes him grow even more, right? And so yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch that relationship.
Mm-hmm. One thing I really wanted to ask, like I'm not gonna waste this opportunity. As you two have directed a ton of games, when you're going through the process of directing a game, are there influences of past directors, especially ones that worked on the same franchise as you? How does that travel with you through all of these years as you're now making God of War Ragnarok?
You know what? I'm glad you asked that question, because it's something I think that gets overlooked. We do change directors, and all of them started in house. I worked with Dave obviously on the first one, and I learned a lot from him. He had a very like what if kind of design mentality. It was like, what if this? Like, and it'd be really like weird, two different things that don't seem like they go together. And he would push you to try to figure this stuff out. It's like, what if you just push the buttons and the combos come out random? And it's like, well, I don't know if that's going to work, Dave. He's like, but it gets to how Kratos' mind is. So he would think about things in a different way. Didn't always translate to gameplay, but that gave us something to go after and chase, to then try to get to that place where it did feel like that. So I always appreciated that about Dave, that he's willing to push boundaries and connect dots that maybe not others could do. And obviously, I've worked with Cory, as like an animator, an animated lead, and then a director. So you start to learn a lot of different things. I think one of the big things I learned from Cory was just like all motion should have intention. There's no reason to move them around if you're not going to get anything out of it, and that explains a lot of why Kratos moves the way he does, the way he stands. Like in old games when he had that idol and he's just going like this, just in the idol, it looked like he was going to plow through everyone. He's like that fast car that's sitting still, kind of mentality. So you start to pick up on these things. And, with Stig, I worked with him. He was an environment artist at first, and then the environment art lead, and then he became the director on 3. But what I learned a lot from Stig was kind of almost the same thing from Cory, but from the world point of view. All Stig's levels seem to always breathe and live. Even if you weren't moving, you could just stand still, but you would always see something. Like an Atlas level, you'd see like the eye looking around. Like he always had these little touches that made the worlds feel alive, and you didn't need to move around to see something happen. And Todd Pappy, he was an awesome level designer. I worked with him, hand in hand, and putting so many of those levels together. And his whole thing was like a lot of attention to detail. He knew how to path players through, when to reward them. And he came up with a lot of the little tricks we used to do in the old games, where you come out of a save point and then the camera would be looking a different way, and that would pull you to the next part of the level. He just knew a way to drag you through it in a good way, where you didn't feel like that was what was happening, but he was like pulling the strings, you know. So when he was director on Ascension, I think he just got pulled a little too thin almost, because they had the multiplayer and then the game to make, and it was just like that was this crazy daunting task for Todd to take on, and he did it, and he smiled and he yelled dinner as loud as he could when we would stay late. That was his thing he used to do in the studio. It was awesome. And then when I worked with Rue and Dana at Ready at Dawn, they were both from art backgrounds, so I learned a ton about, you know, the way to compose things, color theory, all this stuff. And you just take a little bit of all this from all these amazing people that you work with, and you know, it's like it's a sum of its parts. Like, you know, you want to bring it all together, and then when you get your shot to do it, it's not just some wild idea. It's like all these little things. And you're like, okay, if I'm going to do this, how would they have done that? You know, and you have these little sounding boards that play off in your head. So, you know, I can't thank all the directors enough for like teaching me things, and just letting me, like, you know, ride shotgun with them for a long time to see how it's done. And then when you get your chance to kind of do right by it.
I think that was such a great way to explain everything, you know, going through each of the directors. I had a moment there for a second. I apologize. Cory, what about you? Did you have those same feelings of working on God of War 2018?
Yeah. I mean, you have that sense of legacy, that feeling that, you know, many have come before you and taken the story in their own directions, and you want to be able to kind of respect these undulations in the sort of path of this character. And with 2018, literally the first thing we were talking about was, let's throw it all out, right? Let's get it down to the basic elements, and then let's figure out what can we do, right? And each of their personalities, you know, Dave's confrontational sort of exploration, the way that he kind of finds new things through this confrontation and this sort of like way of approaching the world, you know, was very interesting. I think that stuck with me the most. But, you know, by the time I got into 2018, I had worked with so many other directors that I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. This is really interesting. And just like Eric says, you realize that everybody you're working with is teaching you something, is giving you a piece of something, allowing you to have this other lens that you can kind of look through and go, oh, check it out. Okay. That's interesting. And that's, I think it really is, it's like the toolbox, that the more people that you get to work with that do the thing that you do really shapes you as a creator and allows you to find your voice. Right. So that even though you're taking these lenses that they've given you, these are really just, you know, tools. The Sam Mendes did these great sort of like 20 rules for directors. And there is one quote within that is fantastic. And it is, find your own unique way into the story. If you didn't write it, then find your own unique way in. Make sure that you are the reason that this is getting made. And that's not some egotistical way. It's simply saying, if you just make something rote verbatim, and it doesn't have any sense of you, of humanity, of your truth in it, it doesn't resonate. It feels a little bit static, as opposed to dig deep, right? Face the things inside of you that you don't like about yourself, or the things that you wish were different about the sort of immediate world around you, or the relationships that you have. These are the things that start to color and create your own unique vision. And I feel like I'm still learning all of that. So it's, you know, on the path. In about 100 years, I should be fine. When I'm a sort of a robot, right, with my brain in the inside the robot, I'll be like, dude, I think I finally get it. We'll be making like God of War 184. Like, I think I cracked the code this time.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both, both Cory and Eric. Eric, I'm so happy that you're the director. I really feel like, you know, God of War Ragnarok is in very good hands. So thank you so much for talking. I'm sure
thank you so much,
agrees.
Sir.
Yes, thank you, John. This was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have one more selfish question that only you want to know?
Ooh, do it.
I get to ask anything at all.
Go for it. I can't promise I'll answer it.
Okay. How is Kratos immortal?
See, that's a mic drop, and we're not going to answer that.
There you go. Here, I'll answer it. It's totally
okay.
good.
Here we go.
How Kratos is immortal. I mean, this is a really good story, and I mean, the details of this are the things that are like, boom, like the emoji with the explosion. All right, so what it is Kratos is immortal simply.
You didn't see that coming?
I did not see that coming.
And I mean, that is insane,
Oh.
right? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's realizations like this that make you proud to be a storyteller, proud to be part of this community. And I hope that all of the people who are now, sitting, laying on the ground probably out of amazement, realize what goes into these things.
Man. You both are absolutely amazing people. All right. That's all the time I have. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate you guys talking to the community like this.
Awesome.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
man.
John.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.